go back to 1991, and it's LA Story. And this is actually one of my favourite Steve Martin films. It's directed by Mick Jackson, who, when he was back in England in the 1970s, Mick Jackson directed The Ascent of Man, which is a very famous BBC series, 1973. And he also directed Connections, 1978, with James Burke. Now, a lot of people would remember that. And if you don't, it's actually worth digging out. It's very, very prescient. And he also directed Threads in 1984, which is a superbly chilling fiction about a nuclear war strike on Sheffield. But anyway, back to LA Story. LA Story, as I say, is one of my favourite Steve Martin films, directed by Mick Jackson. Harris K. Telemacher, who's played by Steve Martin, is a television weather presenter in America. And he gives the weather in a very slapstick and shallow comedic manner, because that's what the station wants. And one day, as he's done the weather, he hands back to his co-presenters Gail and Bob, and Gail says on air, "Harris, somebody told me you have a PhD in arts and humanities." And Harris says, "I do." And Gail just laughs derisively and said, "Did you a lot of good?" And that really hurt him. So that brutally sums up to him the dead end that he finds himself in with his job and his girlfriend Trudy, who's played by Marilu Henner, and everything, really. He dislikes the trendy hipster culture of where he lives, of ordering coffee in a prescribed signalling rich kind of ritual. The parties and the shallow networking and all of that, he really dislikes that. The whole superficiality of display of achievement in the place that he lives. And at a lunch with a group that includes Roland McKay, who's played by Richard E. Grant, Harris notices the arrival of Roland's ex-wife, his ex-wife is Sarah McDowell, played by Victoria Tennant. Now, she's a journalist, and Harris is immediately transfixed by her. She's English. Now, in a clothes shop, he meets a complete bimbo of a shop girl called Sandy, but Sandy is played by Sarah Jessica Parker when she was very young. Later in the night, Harris is driving home, and the car grinds to a halt on the hard shoulder for no apparent reason. And while Harris is looking at the engine, he turns around and notices the motorway.matrix sign behind him. It says "Hiya" on the display, and the sign continues to chat with Harris. The sign informs Harris that it stops people who are in trouble. And the car starts mysteriously. The sign leaves Harris with a little riddle to solve, and away Harris goes. Now, Sarah McDowell sees Harris's wacky weather report on television and asks if she can interview him for an article, which goes ahead. And one of Harris K. Telemacher's artistic pursuits is to roller skate through art galleries, while a friend surreptitiously videos this. He spends a day with Sandy, the shop girl, who is clearly far too young for him, but he tries to keep up. And then later, the motorway sign says he should have got her number. The next day, Harris is at Trudy's home, where she admits that she's been having an affair. And there's a absolutely superb line in the script, which a lot of people completely miss, where she just admits that she's been having sex with his agent for 3 years. And he just says, "And this is how I find out. You tell me," which I think is really subtle. The film has a superb cameo with Patrick Stewart as the dictatorial and sadistic maitre d' of a restaurant called L'Idiot, a restaurant with a regime of cruelty, assessing the customers' financial references before they can even come in and have a seat or order it. And it depends what they order. And impossibly long booking lead times, which is quite a good little pastiche. LA Story, 1991. I actually very, very much like it. It's very subtle in many ways. Have a very good Monday and a very good week, everybody. Thank you. Goodbye.